So we have Stephen here once again for our part two of the virtual business and accounting prep. I'm sure I got a lot of responses from students that they really enjoyed the first one. And they're really looking forward to the second one to get more tips and suggestions on how to be successful.
Yep. Let's get into it. All right. Okay, you guys see the slide? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. All right, so welcome to Accounting and Business Career Prep Workshop Part 2. Right, and we got the little cheesy line, your value is about to explode, right? But definitely gonna learn a lot. For those who've been here, the first part, I'm sure a lot was learned, a lot was gained. Things probably were actually implemented in the first week. For those who are not here, you're gonna learn something else and be able to apply it as soon as possible. And we're going to a whole new segment, right? So last week we went through review workshop. We went through resume reviews, interview prep, career prep, more on the accounting side, which is tax and audit, advisory, and in consulting, and just gave a nice general overview of how you can get yourself prepared and started to be able to, start your career. But here we're going to go into a little more detailed. Oh, well, we do have typos. I put how to network. I didn't change it, how to network and interview prep, but we are going to go into the next slide and be able to see more about what we're going to get into. So we have the agenda and table of context on the next page. So here we're going to get into career paths and LinkedIn revamp. We're going to have a break, and then we're going to get into upskilling and future readiness and scholarships. So right after this, we're going to get into a brief introduction for those who don't know me. And finally, as we go through it, you can, write in the chat. We do have Eleanor. I'm not sure how long Xavier's going to be on the phone, on the call, but if you guys have a pertinent question you want to get answered because you might have a follow-up, feel free to reach into the chat and, give a little side ping to them, and, I'll stop midway. Let's have a conversation.
Perfect. Well, too. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right. So the rules of the road throughout our session. First, be present, unplug, turn off, tune in, limit distractions by saving emails and phone calls for designated breaks, which will have that in the, very split middle. Second, be engaged. Actively participate in the discussion by asking questions in the chat section that'll be answered in the Q&A portion. Next, be intentional. Listen intently, take sound notes to use for later, and share your thoughts or what you've learned in the end. And last, be excellent. Leave feeling better equipped to take on the business world. All right, so I'm going to give a brief introduction about myself. So my name is Stephen Alexander. As you can see, I'm a proud Queens College alumni. Graduated back in 2019 with a dual major in corporate finance and economics and a minor in accounting. But after that, I went to NYU Stern's Business School and was able to get my master's in accounting. To give a little brief background, currently I'm working as we speak, right? But we're here doing this career prep. So I work for Deloitte & Touche LLP in the risk and advisory practice. I am a finance operator, as you can see, solutions analyst. So what we do is two parts, right? We find solutions for different firms, and I'm in the TMT section of the firm. So that's technology, media, and telecommunications. So there we will help build these firms' ERP systems, which is allowing them to be able to streamline how they deal with customers, all right, paying for things, dealing with business to business, B2B. And then there's the operational side. So that's the solution side of us figuring out ways to make it seamless and using the tech side to be able to automate it with AI and machine learning. And then the operational side is actually knowing how to actually do these things. So, doing a wire transfer and invoicing, and if you're going to build a data model, these kind of things. So that's what I do in a day to day. And I'm the founder of Anointed Foundation, which is a nonprofit to amend socioeconomic deficiencies in the inner city for business and tech enthusiasts and who would like to get into that career path. Also, I'm a tech junkie. That's over here. I love tech since I was 12 years old. First thing I ever did was break down an old computer I found on the street and reverse engineered it and got to learn the ins and outs. At that time, we had dial-up. I'm not sure how anybody else, how old anyone else here is, but we had dial-up, and I had to wait like 10 minutes just for me to figure out what RAM was, right? Random access memory, for those who don't know. And yeah, built that background in more so of my career, amalgamated that with business and finance. And here, love anime. This is, for those who don't know, this is well, we'll leave it at that. Right. Next, love basketball, played basketball, many different tournaments professionally, right under the G League, for all the way up until undergrad of college. Also ran track, so I need to put that up here. And I'm a basketball lover. Not basketball lover, sorry. Transformational coach. I love helping people, love finding solutions to be able to aid for people to just be their best self. And finally, I'm an avid believer of Christ. I'm a kingdom believer, so I'm a Christian, and I'll stand tall on that. So we'll go straight into it and get into career paths. So first career sets of career paths we actually did was the accounting field. So as I said before, that was audit, tax, advisory, and consulting. And just a little brief background for those who don't know, audit is, the word audit is checking over someone's work. So making sure the numbers is correct that they actually delivered, because at the end of the day, there's investors, there's stakeholders, and there's consumers, which is the day-to-day people that actually invest in stocks. They want to know that the financial statements is true and correct, and that we are getting what they claim, and we'll be able to invest safely and securely into these firms. Second is tax, right? The word tax in itself there's regular tax and there's global tax. So global tax actually deals with how the rates would be with other firms, other countries, and even the different time zones has to be implemented in the tax system, right? So we have that, right? And it's a reoccurring thing that gets into like regulations and knowing like what administration is coming in to be able to affect the tax code and staying up to date in that. So that's very important besides just the numbers. Then there's risk and advisory. That's the practice I'm in. And I use the word protect, right? Because you want to make sure you're advising the different firms that they are protected, right? And you are helping to mitigate the risk and the issues that can come up. Because you're a professional, this is what you should be doing to be able to get the best, service and professional activity for these different firms. And last, consulting, which is more on the side of figuring out issues of what's going on with the different firms, right? So there's 100 customers and only 50 people are buying, but you're giving it out to 1,000 different people, and what's the trend, right? So figuring out the data and then being able to help these different firms build their capital. So, looking at an increase of percentage, like from 50 to 75, right? And then they start to grow and build. So that's the consulting side. So we're going to go right now into the banking side, right? And give a little brief overview of it, right? So this is investment banking. And as it reads, investment banking is a segment of the financial service industry that assists companies, institutions, and governments with raising capital, which is underwriting in via IPOs, initial public offerings, and executing transactions such as M&As, mergers and acquisitions. So this word here using execute. So it's more about the money, right? And what you end up doing, there's different levels, right? So there's research at the analyst level, what up and coming companies are looking to go from private into now public, right? Because what we're doing or what's being proposed, right, to the public is the company starting to grow and they see that it can build big, and they want investors or the public to start to invest into the company to be able to build capital. And from there, right, you'll be able to have more money to be able to give more offering to the general public, right? So if you have a low amount of capital, you can only sell so much, you can only do so much. But then as they invest, right, it's like kind of a crowdsourcing kind of thing. This is where stocks actually come in. Right, from there, they'll be able to get things out faster to us. And we see, firms like Amazon, with the more money they get, the faster delivery, because they'll be able to pay their employees, right? And they'll be able to actually hire more employees, hire more stock and assets, right? Such as vehicles or liabilities, to be able to actually, get these things out for us in a timely manner, right? But this is what investment and banking really would segue into, right? And ultimately, the other side of it, right, besides the IPOs with the M&As, right, the mergers and acquisitions, is also seeing other firms that may be able to build and expand your actual current firms. Or you guys see that there's another firm that's in the same product offering, and instead of competing, you might as well just come together and utilize each other's capital and then build upon that. Next, there's wealth management. As it reads, wealth management can be thought of as a comprehensive service focused on taking a holistic look at clients' financial pictures, including services such as investment management, financial planning, tax planning, and estate planning. So as it is, the words may seem foreign, but it's very general. Wealth management, right? So you're just managing wealth, or managing the funds of a wealthy person. So this might be more close to home, right? More homely with a boutique bank. And Google what boutique banks are. There's like main, investment banks such as JP Morgan and Chase, Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. And then there's boutique banks such as Guggenheim. And these are prolific banks, right? But they do hire very niche based. So, do your research on that, right? And, you can, instead of having to stay up with trends with the investment banking and seeing what's going on with IPOs, you could do wealth management, right? Which is just working on one client, one individual. I'm actually on a project like that right now. And, just help them build, right? So you will end up taking note of what's being public, right? And what's going public, and then tell them like, okay, this might be a good investment. That's somewhere you can put your money, so on and so forth. Same thing with the tax planning and the real estate planning, how you want to aid in them investing in where they would like to grow. All right, next is venture capitalists, right? Or venture capitalism, all these things in a nutshell, right? So venture capital is a form of private equity and a type of financing that investors provide to startup companies and small businesses that are believed to have long-term growth potential. Venture capital generally comes from well-off investors, investment banks, and other financial institutions. So here actually at Queens College, I know that there's a BlackRock venture capital competition. I'm not sure if that's what they called it, but
Blackstone.
Blackstone. Sorry. Yeah. So Blackstone, I had the chance to actually look at the different pitches, right? So that's generally what you would do. You have like a panelist, you have a group of individuals that will look over these different ideas, right? And what it can do is it ends up aiding everyone, right? So right now we're in more of a ESG kind of framework, right? What we're going into, trying to protect the planet, right? And social impact. So ESG is environmental, sustainability and like governance. So if you're, a coach or someone that is on the panel, you're going to look for firms that's actually, looking at these kind of things, because that's the growing trend of what we're doing and what we're getting at. And we're going to get more into these examples of growing trends. One of the most important things is having more an innovative mind and seeing where the world is going and not where it's at, right? And what will end up happening is will be like an ecosystem where someone sees a need and then they come up with an idea, and the investors, right, or the big banks, right, or whatever financial institution would then see that, okay, this might build profit, right, and you will end up getting this profit or this capital to be able to execute on your dreams and purpose and vision, but also then be able to receive profit when ultimately, it's finished. And then you create jobs for other individuals, and then it plays on a purpose that's actually being needed, right? And then the big banks end up, or whoever is investing ends up receiving their share, and all is well that ends well, right? So that's actually uh a side of banking or business that I actually like, and I would hope to actually get into in the future. And last, which is the cousin of venture capitals, is private equity. So I'll say like investment banking and wealth management is related, and venture capitalism and private equity is more related. So private equity in a nutshell is the investment of equity capital in private companies. In a typical private equity deal, an investor buys a stake in a private company with the hope of ultimately realizing an increase in the value of that stake. All right, so I use the word grow. An example would be a billionaire, right? Jeff Bezos, seeing a company that doesn't want to go public, right, as an investment bank, going to go into the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ or the Dow, and knowing that there's potential to grow vast, but you don't want to have other people owning it. So the disadvantage, right, and it's kind of like on the opposite spectrum, private equity investment banking. The disadvantage is that you may not have a whole bunch of people, right? Because stocks is kind of the general word or form of stocks is more like crowdfunding, right? We're buying into the system, we're buying into these firms, and then allowing them to raise capital, right? And then able to then subjugate that money back into us, right? Ultimately, we hope. And then there's private equity, which is a private firm that doesn't go public, right? And you kind of take yourself outside of the running from getting a whole bunch of investors. But if you do have an investor that is very wealthy and believes in it, you can end up keeping rights and ownership and presidency to be able to build and expand and execute your vision for that firm without having to go public. Because when you do go public, you then end up having shareholders, the public offering is out there, presidents, CEOs, and it's a lot of different swaying opinions that end up affecting these firms, right? So you end up probably losing the vast majority of how or what you started the firm for. I'm not sure. I can't see the chat, so I'm not sure if there's any questions. If there's any questions, you can tell me, Eleanor. If not, I'll continue.
I don't think the only question that was before was, do you have a favorite player? Because when you said you like to play basketball.
Oh, do I have a favorite player? Cliche, but Steph Curry. I'll say Steph.
Okay.
Involving everything about him. So not the fact that he just shoots well, but him holistically as a person, his ideals, his values, but more so the way he plays the game. He can play off ball and on the ball, and I believe like he's solidified himself this year. So yeah, my boy Steph Curry, and we got the same name, funny enough. So
yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
Huh?
Sounds good. No more questions.
Okay. All right, so that's the end of the career prep segment. So here we have LinkedIn revamp, and I'm not sure what time did I say? 12:10. Was it 12:45? I think this is the break. Let me see. All right, so here we have the LinkedIn revamp. This is a place to actually start taking heavy notes, I'll say. The other ones you can like Google and search up. This one is more like here, right? So it's a whole new trend going on LinkedIn, right? It's becoming very interpersonal. LinkedIn is actually listed as a social media, right? But a lot of people were never actually social because, like, let's be honest, for you to be interpersonal in a business setting was really tough. And I didn't think we had that avenue from before. But as the different groups, right, millennials and Gen Z start to come to the workforce and become a little older, millennials right now are in their late 30s and like early 40s, so they're becoming these managers and these VPs and these senior managers. So the trend is going to more holistic, personable stance of who you are, right? One of the number one things was always company culture, but I believe it was more segmented to what they're still looking for at the end of the day. But at this point, there's DEI, diversity and inclusion and equity, and just putting everyone into this melting pot of diversity, right? Diversity of thought actually by metrics brings more profit, right? So what was once said that what may have brought confusion or problems and issues back in the days, we have more tech that's building these platforms very quickly, so we don't need as much hands-on manual individuals, right? All we just need is the data, and we've seen that places or firms with the most diversity end up with a lot of satisfaction overall. They love their firms, and the profit has just been resounding. So we're gonna get into this, right? And you could take notes, and you can actually go out and revamp your LinkedIn after. You don't have to be stiff or stuff. And I actually have to update it. It has been very busy, but there's some things I would like to change too. And as you free yourself up, your professional background is going to stay for itself. It's going to be there, right? They're going to see the roles you worked, right? So they're going to see the skills, right? But they want to know who you are as a person, and will there be retention? Will you still be there if they hire you, right? But more so, they would like to hire you based on what you're actually giving, and that will actually save a lot of time for the hiring managers, right? Because they'll be able to get a good segue or background of who you are, and then segueing into the interviews, then you'll be able to have that one-on-one where you would just finish the 50% instead of having to break the ice in the midst of the interview. So first, a personal brand should sound personal, right? So your LinkedIn profile is a way to let others see behind the titles and roles, to share the most honest version of yourself and share what makes you you. So I myself on my LinkedIn, I wasn't actually able to go into my profile and change some of the settings, but I've actually shared some of the backgrounds and stories that I've went through, and I guess you can say it went viral, right? And very surprisingly, I do these things for individuals that have gone through the same path or are going through the same path, because let's be honest, LinkedIn is very it has a box where it's you're at the podium, and you're just walking across like a graduation stage every time. You don't actually see the 4 years of the toil, sweat, and labor, right? It's not well, I didn't get hired today kind of thing. It's more like hey, I just got hired at so-and-so, right? So it discourages a lot of individuals. So, I go out there and I share a bit more about myself, so others can see that you could just post a little bit by yourself and have others start to watch you. And there's a phrase that's pretty new. I forget what it's called, but it's more like let's say like interpersonal equity, like who you are as a person, right? And you're building your brand around this, because that's the kind of place where we're at now, right? So as you share more and you build more network, right? Actually people knowing you, because what you're sharing is not just the highlights, but you're sharing things as we go into this second part, right? Resilience, security, trust, confidence. They're able to see the things that you're going to write on your resume in person, because it's actually practical stories that you're posting, right? So you just saved yourself a whole bunch of problems when you get into the interview, and it's tell me about yourself, right? Or not tell me about yourself, but tell me about a time, right? And then you can just be like, well, if you're that, interpersonal, or just being able to, open up the room, or and put your best foot forward, right, by showing yourself, if you have a vibrant personality, and say, well, right on my LinkedIn, this was a story, and then you could just go over that, and hey, like, do you mind? And from there, you start to break the ice, because at the end of the day, they want to know if they can work with you continually, because that's what it is. There's no set date of when you're supposed to get fired, but you have a set date of when you're hired. So show yourself up, so they'll be able to see more about you. So yeah, amplify your firm's purpose, right? And I put the word firms, but just anything in general, or who you are, role, school, so on and so forth. Trust, resilience, and security, because they trust and rely on those who are real. When you talk about yourself and what matters to you, you help exemplify your firm's purpose. And that also builds team bonding, right? When you're on these different teams, because it's at this point in time, sometimes, people are on the road, they're busy and so on and so forth, and you might not actually get to see them. And I believe seeing someone actually builds like I don't know, some psychological, subconscious camaraderie. But as people are not really in person, or not actually on, the Zoom calls with the actual face, you want to get to know the person more. You want to talk a bit more, so that connection starts to build. So here we are, deepening relationships, connections. Don't just expand your network, right? Do it with people you want to be around. By leaning into transparency on LinkedIn and your profile, you're more likely to attract those of like mind and grow your network in a way that's reflective of what matters to you. And last, express authenticity to recruit and retain top talent. If you've read your LinkedIn profile, would you want to hire you? That's the question. So let's write your profile, right? So here you can write some notes. What is something surprising that your clients, prospects, or colleagues wouldn't expect or don't know about you, right? So you think about the unique experiences that have shaped you into who you are today. And these things that you can just, as you think of different stories that has happened to you, because sometimes we do so many things where it's like, have you ever been in a leadership position? And you're going to think back to like, okay, have I actually been a leader in title? But you've been a leader of a group project, right? And you might not think about it, but these are the kind of things that you want to write down so you can save for the interview, or if you want to post and share on your LinkedIn, right? What kind of special thing actually happened. And then from there, be able to start to build and this is very important. You can build this holistic interaction that you want to give to your hiring manager, whoever, right? Because that key question, tell me about yourself, it's a free range question, but it's actually very distinct on what they want to hear, right? They want to know first, the introduction of where you've been, right? So school, if you want to share where you're from, right? That little template. And then they want to hear what inspires you, what builds you, your purpose and goals, and so on and so forth, right? Then you can throw on like your little 5-year or 10-year, and then you can throw in a story, right, that segues into past experiences of or why you worked at a certain role. So that tell me about yourself, they actually want to hear you talk about your resume just in like a story form, and it's not so bland as I did this, I did that. So sometimes, unfortunately, you might not have had a job that exemplifies the course where you want to go, right? But you can still use the qualities of when you were working there to segue into the new firm, right? So once again, I used McDonald's before, right? You can say a phrase as, I worked hard and diligent, right, to be able to build the statistical growth value of my shift, right, from 10 customers to 20 customers, getting them in and out very quickly. All right, and I'll be able to do that in X, Y, and Z because there should be a course description, a role description, right? And then you'll share how you're able to help them, right, in that way. So that's one of the most important things you want to explain is not just what you do, but how you do it and how you can do it and help them because they're trying to fill a need. So you want to exemplify the fact that you are the best person to be able to do that. Sometimes you may not actually have all the skills, right? And there's also a rule of thumb, I think it's about like, if you have about 75% or 80% of the job skills, you are in a great shoe, and they don't expect you to have everything. If you do, well, wonderful, right? But they don't expect everyone to have every last thing. They want to see who the best fit is for this role going on, because we're meant to be able to help new individuals, right? Managers and people that are above you are going to help you build those skill sets. They just want to know you have the aptitude and the ability to be able to learn and grow and receive coaching and things of that nature. So next, pivot, right? How was that experience an illustration of what you like or care most about in your career? What makes you excited to go to work? We explain that, right? Make it real. Share a concrete example of a moment of adversity that defined you, a challenge you overcame for a client or colleague, and what moving through that experience taught you about yourself, right? So spoke about all of this, right? Now you back it up with the history, list the roles most relevant to your growth. What roles have you exemplified? Exemplified you, and what are you doing now, right? What impact do you make on your clients, your coworkers, and society? No, do not name the clients. Don't name people at all. I remember even writing my post, right? You're gonna know distinctly who the names, right? The names of the firms, the institution, the schools, and you just leave out those details, and you still will be able to show, right, or explain and convey exactly what you need to, right? Because you're building this story, you're building this picture. Next, add in what you love doing and when you're not working. What do you wish you could do more of, or what causes are you passionate about, right? So we spoke about that, and that's what you want to relate to them, right? You can do your research and get a bit of background of the firm and say, like, well, I took note of this part of the firm, and it really hit home with me, right? And I would like to be a part of that as I join and hit the ground running, so on and so forth. Last, wrap up an invitation to connect. Echoing what you shared in the first few sentences, how would you like to offer to help someone who is reading? Invite them to join in what you're excited to do next. Remember, there's no right way to write a LinkedIn profile. It's your call, right? These are just guidelines. If you're still stuck, bounce some ideas off your colleagues, your team members, your coach, or significant other, and ask, does this sound like me, the me you know and interact with every day? So you're not selling a dream, you're selling exactly who you are. All right. There's a simple truth behind this effort. Business is built around the way people build and nurture deep relationships. As a prolific leader put it once, people want to do business with people they like. Simple. All right. Here we are. Photos are key. Your photo and your personal banner in your LinkedIn profile, right? So here you have your profile, right? And your picture and your background is going to give a bit about who you are, right? I have a picture of my banner is a picture I actually took of the New York City skyline from Brooklyn. And this is where I'm from, and it encompasses me, right? It's a very elegant kind of picture, but it has like a grit to it and shows, right, this is who I am at the end of the day. Do add a photo that's authentic to you, right? I mean, sometimes you might not be able to do it, but these iPhone cameras or these phone cameras in general can do a lot of work. So use the aperture sight, blow out the background, and get a picture up that is clear, clean, as soon as possible, right? Use a brand compliant personal banner available at Deloitte Brand Space. So this was something else specific to me, but yeah. So avoid no picture, grainy or pixelated picture, poor lighting, black and white for no reason, and no party pictures, no yachts or otherwise. I believe this might be the last. All right, no. Knowledge check. What are some ways? So what are some of the ways you can make your profile more impactful? So you can write in the chat or come to the mic. I know it's very simple, but whatever you want to do. Nobody want to write in the chat? All right, so personalize it to show what you do, who you are, and how that impacts your work. Demonstrate how your personal and professional lives are related. Be vulnerable. Identify what energizes you about your work. And last, all of the above. All right, so it could be any of these, or it could be all of these. And okay, so yeah, I believe we're here at 12:45. I think this was the time. So we have a break. It could be longer. And
David, can I suggest when they come back from break, if one or two people may want to share what they kind of wrote about themselves? Just briefly.
Okay. No problem, no problem. All right. All right, yeah, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat. If not, you can take your break.
Can you go back to the question so they could take a look at it? Thanks.
This one?
Yeah, perfect. What time do you need us back?
Let me check. Let me see what I actually put.
Okay.
1 second. Oh, no, we're right on time. Okay, yeah, 12:50. 30 minutes.
So
Yep.
8 minutes.
Yeah, so you can come back at 12:52. Get my charger. All right, 12:53. I know I'm back, Zabby. I'm back.
That's great. So I think there was a question in regards to LinkedIn. Let me just look it up. Here it is. Our resume and LinkedIn should have similar info. For example, if I'm looking for a job and LinkedIn is showing that I'm still working in a company. Sohail, did you finish your question? For example, if I'm looking for a job and LinkedIn is showing that I'm still working in a company, I feel like something is missing. That's okay if your LinkedIn says that you're still working. That's fine. You can work and still look for a job. You don't have to wait until either you quit, you're laid off or anything else. It's always good to network.
Yeah.
And you could be leaving this, your job for many reasons. It could be for professional growth. It could be something that you're passionate about or developing a passion, or, if it's more money or more benefits, you wouldn't mention that, but probably learn about something maybe the company attracts you. So that's fine if you're still working and looking for another job.
All right. Okay, yeah. So the question on the screen. What are some ways that you can make your profile more impactful? So if anyone likes to share.
You can guys unmute yourself. Let's make it a little more interactive.
Oh, y'all so shy. I'm noticing
You can practice it here. Like this is your first. So Kenneth put something in the chat. In my profile, mentioned my volunteer experience in any group projects that I did so far. I did it to show that I'm a team player and could be useful in monitoring others' work.
That's good. That shows early managerial experience. Anybody else?
Your time management skills, organizational skills, and employers like when you volunteer too. So you're doing something outside of just school and work. You're giving your time to something that you're passionate about.
Right. To everyone that's on the call, well, besides Eleanor and Zavi, this is where you can jump out and test yourself and just get out your comfort zone. Yeah, you're talking to a recent college grad, right? So this is where you learn to speak with professionals, ask them questions, try to build a connection and stuff like that. Because it's gonna be different when they're grilling you, right? Some might not be as friendly. So I'll tell you this now, learn to build these experiences so you know how to operate and maneuver when you are in that situation. All right, so we can get into it. All right, once again, by failing to